Coach Blue and athletic director Marissa.
Hello.
Man, I don't know why that got tongue-tied there. Hey, thanks so much for downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast and jumping on here with us as we do our weekly call-in show. This week, we got lots of content with very little time. So we're going to jump into some heavy topics with mental health here in a moment. But first, we've got to thank all of our Patreon subscribers. We got to really give you guys a shout out. Thank you so much for joining the efforts to get this podcast out a little bit further, and for us to give you something in return. The Patreon program is really kind of a cool setup. We get to give you stuff if you donate, depending on what tier you donate to. The perks and features and bonuses galore. Right?
Absolutely.
So, Marissa, who do we got to give thanks to? I think we have a new Patreon subscriber this week, I think.
Yes, and we did last week, but we will go through from the top.
We didn't do one last week. Remember, I got so busy. We had to put So
and we won't be doing one-on-one next week, just so you know.
No, maybe producer Max will pull one from the archive for you guys.
Yeah, probably.
So, awesome.
Okay, so our champion level subscribers are Shad and Freya Robinson, Ron and Dee Loesch, and Andrew Baird. Thank you, our champions. Our pro is our new Patreon, Justin Robbins. Thank you,
Welcome to the team, Justin.
Our rookie levels, Sherry Polson, Earl Dyer, Wendell Wood, Brad Waldron, and Gary Thurston. Thank you, rookies. And our super fans, Karen Hardy, Steve Riggs, Tracy Whitby, Jerem Thurston, Tara Butson, Holly Davies, Scott Foster, Brett Frew, Chris Williams, Sensei KP Brown, Patrick Forsyth, Brock Ellerman, and Christy Case.
That is quite a list.
I get good at saying those fast.
Woo! Yes, thank you. One and all in one. Thank you guys so much. Jump on patreon.com/addicttoathlete. And you can download all of our stuff right there. We got some great content there. $2 a month.
Yeah.
Can get you all the bonus episodes.
Absolutely.
And I think who was it? Was it Patrick that asked about the
Justin?
Justin,
yes,
you asked about that.
So we're going to be sending him his Patreon gifts.
You paid in full, so you get the gifts right away. So we'll get you guys to get that stuff ready to rock. So anyway, we've got little time, but we got lots of information. This might be a little bit more brief than I'd liked it to have been, but I want to jump in today, Marissa, and talk a little bit about mental health. Did you know that mental health is still an issue?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's getting bigger and bigger.
We hear about it a lot. We hear about mental health, the mental health crisis, all this kind of stuff. We hear that, you get these people that are on polar opposites of things like the touchy topic of gun control and the mental health that needs to come into play. I'm a strong advocate for more mental health to be utilized, but there's a roadblock. And, we're going to talk about a little about what mental health is, what's going on, why is it so hard to access. There are so many of you out there that have really, expressed need for mental health services. But sometimes the ability for you to access those are so flipping tough.
Yeah.
We hear this a lot, Marissa. We get, you and I have opened up a whole new chapter of life, and that is working in the world of private therapy, utilizing private insurance.
Yeah.
And Lord have mercy.
It's rough. I know people.
What are you noticing?
I know people who are seeking services and resources through counseling and therapy are having a difficult time finding, providers. And I know that there's limited access to providers. There's not as many. People are getting out of the industry. People are changing. But being on the other side of trying to get paneled with insurance is almost just as difficult. It is a pain.
Oh.
So yeah, there's so many issues as to why it's a problem. But yeah, it's hard for a mental health provider like Blue to be able to even get paneled with insurances, and for those who are seeking services to be able to find, a provider, that somebody that's in network, or somebody that, makes it financially available to them.
Yeah.
And somebody even fits their personality. Like, there's just not as many around either.
And it's interesting how many plans I've noticed with people that we've talked with that has very limited access to mental health care beyond like physical care. Mm-hmm. And, when we look at this debate of, one of the things that's kind of hot topic again is gun violence and the mental health issue, when it's so flipping hard for the common person to access this care because of hoops and because of insurances and denials. And does my policy carry this? And what if my policy only has such and such, counselors, but they're all booked for the next 6 months? I've heard people that have been on waiting lists, Marissa, literally up to 3 months to get in to talk about mental health issues.
Yeah.
There's something very wrong with that. So why is there a wall in services? Like you said, sometimes it's because people get fed up and they leave careers. Sometimes it's, bigger agencies trying to like scoop up a lot of people. There's so many issues. And I worked for a program called Better Help. Remember that? It was an online thing. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was really nice. But the pay was horrible. Yeah. It was horrible. And these people that needed services from all over the country.
And world.
Yeah. And world.
People out of the state. Yeah.
My gosh. I had clients in other countries. And, I'm thinking, it's a great resource, but compensation wise, it wasn't worth my time.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of research has said that, they believe that mental health issues have risen just within the United States about 20%. So yeah, there's more need for it as well. And I always ask, what are the reasons for that? Why is mental health increasing? Some say it's the rise in social media, obviously COVID and the pandemic, societal trends, family units breaking apart, less community involvement, and people feeling connected, which often, you can get counseling from friends and connections and things like that, and that has decreased.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have other thoughts on why you think it's
Yeah, I do. I think that there's a lot. I think first and foremost, the stigma is beginning to ebb away to a certain degree.
That's true.
And more people are talking about it.
And as they talk about it, they're more willing to seek services. And it's not as much of a taboo thing to go to therapy and counseling. So yeah, that makes sense.
If you've noticed on my caseload, I've been getting a lot more, 20 to 30-year-olds than I ever have before. And so this younger generation seeing the need in it, which is kind of cool. But it boils down to, well, what is mental health? A mental health issue that includes the emotional and physical, really kind of the social well-being, the psychological aspects of life and how it affects you in your daily tasks.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of biological factors that can play into mental health issues. There's, such as genes and brain chemistry, life experiences, which is kind of what I see most is trauma and abuse.
Yeah.
And family history. And so when we have all of these conglomerates of issues, a person that needs services can't wait 3 months.
No.
You and I just got word from our daughter in high school right now that there's been another suicide in our little community down there in South County, Utah County. And it's heartbreaking because help is there, but I don't think we're talking about it enough. Have you heard the episode with little Gracie that we just did the other day about what's going on with her out there, that little 9-year-old powerhouse
girl that we had on the podcast? Yeah.
She talks about mental health services at age 9 and how important it was because of the trauma that she experienced. And there are early warning signs that most of you out there listening should be able to recognize. Either in yourself or in your loved ones. And that's things like, maybe eating or sleeping too much or too little, pulling away from people, pulling away from activities, having low energy, feeling numb, like nothing matters anymore.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it can also be just being a little more short-tempered, things just get you upset. A lot of times we've looked at depression as being a withdrawal, a sadness, but I think sometimes it's also, we've seen it as just more aggressive and maybe just a shorter, temperament and being able to handle things. And
let's talk about that.
Different ways that depression shows up.
Talk about that for a second. Mental health is not only in and of itself considered a major social problem, but it also has been, I think, the catalyst to some diverse social issues that we need to face in this country. I see tons of people losing their minds in situations that maybe 10, 15, even 20 years ago would have just been a minor inconvenience.
Yeah.
We've heard of several incidences this week. One was a young man who was going to pick up his brothers at a birthday party and, made the fateful mistake of getting the address wrong and was shot twice in the head by the homeowner when he knocked on his door.
Knocked on the
African-American kid.
Yeah.
Same situation. A
Upstate
girl
New
was
York.
turning around in someone's driveway,
Yeah.
and this guy come popping out and killed her
for
turning around in her driveway.
Yeah.
And then again, it just happened with 2 cheerleaders. Again, today I heard where, an individual got into the wrong car. She was talking to her friend, made the mistake, as we've all done in the Walmart or Target parking lot. Car looks like yours. You get in and you're like, oh, what's this? And he shot and killed her.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm thinking there is a huge problem with this. And this is mental health 101, people.
Yeah.
Normal people don't do this stuff. That's what makes it really challenging and really hard.
Well, and to me, I look at it and I think there's a lot of issues, but I think it's a conglomeration of multiple things adding up. And that makes it even more difficult, because how do you find the root cause and how do you find the real issue when it's so many things coming together?
Yeah. You look at the temperament of what's happening right now in our communities and our societies. People are closing off. I think that the beginning of the pandemic with the social distancing to a degree, emotional distancing, and we haven't reunited yet.
Yeah.
I still think that we are doing this now out of just, I guess, repetition.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is
people just became comfortable.
Yeah, they have
separated.
Well, think about it. Look at our meeting sizes. It's just a microcosm kind of microscopic look. Before pandemic, we would average about 60, sometimes 70 people at an addict to athlete meeting. Post pandemic, we're about maybe 15 to 20.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah. But we have our own space, and I just assumed it would just,
if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, we're going to have all those people back. COVID's over. Everyone can come back to meetings, and it's difficult to get people out again.
And granted, there is some burnout. I know that there's some burnout there, but what we're seeing is that the mental health crisis in America is still increasing. So what is it? Why are people now afraid to come out? Has that social anxiety increased and all that other stuff where it's we're seeing a rise in things like online shopping and all this stuff where people don't have to go out anymore?
I do it every day.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But, for instance, if you heard some situations up in Oregon, Walmart is closing major stores in Oregon now because of theft. And what's happened is these communities have degraded so deeply that it's more viable for them to close stores to do online shopping where no one's allowed in so that they can save product. Wow. Okay. And that sucks, because that means the community has disintegrated so much because they have these mass people rushing in and rushing out, and you can't arrest all those people, right? It's overwhelming.
It takes too much.
And we see it in San Francisco. We see it in California and other areas. And this is a mental health crisis. What is going on? But I guess this whole kind of doom and gloom, people, is we're not seeing from the people that own insurance companies and the big business folks and the big wigs, we're not seeing them rushing to the aid to increase help.
Yeah.
We're looking at we just watched a Philip DeFranco. He's a little news guy on YouTube, talked about, on a medical level, one insurance company denying everything for almost a year. So if you had a medical problem, you automatically were denied because they said, only 5% of people challenge the denial?
Yeah. And so they were just coming up with some algorithm where they would just blanket deny. I mean, I think it was hundreds of thousands of, cases that were being sent. And they were like, yeah, that's cheaper, because then there's only 5% that come back and try to fight it.
Yeah.
So we save a lot of money.
It's one of the biggest scams in the world. But meanwhile, you and your nuclear family, you're suffering. And so what we need to provide for you listening right now is to become your own triage center in your home.
Yeah.
This is why Addict to Athletes created our home team, and to help train you parents to become kind of builders and creators of a dynasty family team.
Yeah.
Because as this stuff gets more and more inaccessible, and as things get more and more chaotic, it's going to be left in your hands to help steer this ship back onto course.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so what does it look like? It's interesting. I've been seeing a lot of younger kids lately, and there's a breakdown in core communication, knowing what's wrong. And I'm not saying that this is your fault, parents. This is the time we leave. I mean, I hope she's listening, but we have a daughter, that's struggling a little bit with just like, getting out of her comfort zone and stuff. And she's trying to find her way. And every time we talk to her, she's doing great, but like, she's got a few, quirks that she's just like, I don't know if I want to challenge myself that way.
Yeah.
So we talk about it and we come up with strategies. Has it solved the problem? No. Because she's going to have to be the one that pushes through the heavier part. We can't.
Some of the lifting.
We got to coach her.
But it's also something
that happens to everybody.
And it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of times you see issues and you think, oh, I need to address this, or get into a therapist and the therapist will fix it. Well, guess what? Therapists don't. Do you fix everything?
No.
I wish you did.
Yeah.
Because then you would fix our daughter's issue right now so quickly and easily. But it doesn't happen that way. And so being able to understand and know that it takes time and we need to have patience and understanding. And like you say, like we've got to be able to start interacting with each other and utilizing ourselves as a resource at all times, because the professional, treatment isn't always there.
Yeah. And that's kind of heartbreaking. One thing that I've really kind of latched on with Marissa and I, as we've raised a family in this modern era, is this parenting out of inconvenience mentality. And it has never been easy. I mean, I remember a mentor of mine talk about, why do we even have kids? And every time we'd throw a reason out there to have kids, he would shoot it down. And I love that, because I remember we just had our daughter, Brooklyn. And I was so just in awe and just oodling over how much I love this little stinker. And when he said that, my hand shot up and I'm like, because she brings a smile to my face every morning when I wake up to go get her to feed her. And he's like, you can do that with a dog. Next. I'm like, ooh, ouch. So I thought again, right? I'm like, I went the biblical way. Well, I said, we're told to replenish the earth. And he's like, we have record amount of people in hunger right now. We're good. We don't need any more. Next. Yep. And every time I shot something out there, he would like shoot it down like a clay pigeon in a shotgun.
Yeah.
So finally I'm sitting there, I'm like questioning myself. I'm like, why do we?
Why do we?
What is it? And the moral of the story, I hope you're not waiting for something big, is like, it makes zero sense. We just do it.
Yeah.
The problem is
a lot of times we do it for selfish reasons.
For selfish reasons. Absolutely. And man, they make you lose hair, and your bank account gets drained, and you have some ups and downs, and sometimes there's trauma and tragedy.
Yeah.
So what's the point, right? Again, I think it's the foundation of love. But here's the deal. When we look at these concepts of parenting out of inconvenience, listeners, it's not easy.
No.
And many of you guys are coming into parenting, even with young adults, teenagers and whatnot, in a very different world, with very different parenting skills that you had, because most of us try to do exactly the opposite of what happened to us. And we get scared. I was talking to a mother yesterday who was so worried that her son was going to self-harm and hurt himself. I mean, here we just talked about a student, right? And to his credit, and he said, well, I do that because I'll win the conversation. I say that, I'll win. And to a certain degree, I had to nod my head to that. Like, that's pretty smart.
Yeah.
Because that's the Queen Mary Mother card of them all.
He's learning that. Yeah. How to control it.
And, I said to him, I'm like, brother, we can't use that. It'd be the same like you and I talking divorce. Not one time in how long? 23 years?
23 years.
23 years. Have we ever gotten into a fight where we've used that word? It's never come up. I remember our first argument, I was waiting for it, but it never came up.
Yeah.
We don't use it because it's not an option. Yeah. And so, our kids, we have that same mentality. But when I say parenting out of inconvenience, Marissa, what does it mean? We've had, how many late nights, how many heartbreaking conversations?
Yeah. It takes work. It's not easy. And if you think you can parent by, what makes you feel good and only the happy things in life, it's not that way. When you're cleaning up puke and vomit in the middle of the night and
going in for bed change number 3 because they keep urinating in the bed, right? You're like, come on.
It's rough. But I think I've realized more like parenting young kids is more like physically demanding. And as our kids are getting older, I'm realizing it's more emotionally demanding.
And I've heard that doesn't change when they get married and move out. I've heard, and I'm like, we're going to be free. We're going to be able to travel. But guess what?
No.
We'll always have that.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you show up for your kids and parenting out of inconvenience, and you're up until 4 a.m. processing and talking, even when the kids are like, leave me alone, I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
What about us as parents? What about me as a husband and you as a wife and partners together? Like, what about us? Because if we're going to show up for our kids, who's going to show up for us?
Yeah. Well,
what do we do?
Number one, I think, and this is where I think a lot of people struggle, is you have to do it for yourself first. So you have to be able to look at, what do I need? And I need to take a break, or I need to do something for myself. Because again, it's the whole airplane thing. When the mask falls down, you've got to get it on yourself before you can help anyone else.
I love that advice, but let's get technical. Let's get real. You and I had a little scare this last week, and it was a physical health thing with me.
Yeah.
And I was getting kind of nervous. I'm like, man, why is my energy really low? Why do I feel like my head's going to explode? I'd been a little bit more, I would say, like just sharp and short. I just didn't feel good. And I'm like, what is this? So going to the doctor, and he's like, holy jeepers, your blood pressure is 168 over like 1,000,000 or something. I don't remember.
It was high.
And I'm like, is that a bad thing? He's like, yeah, it's a bad thing. And I remember talking to you. I got really scared.
Oh, yeah.
Because for the first time, I was like, ooh, there's something wrong here. And I don't know what it is. And I don't know if I can fix it. I remember telling you, Marissa, I'm scared.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want any stress in my life. I don't want any of this. Thinking that if I just, like lay down on the couch for a half hour, then it'll go away.
Yeah, I feel better.
Calgon, take me away for all you older folks, right? Like, no, it doesn't work that way. And I had to let people in, and I had to let, like Elena, your sister, in, and I had to let you in, and some athletes and stuff. And my gosh, through the process of just like taking things easy and seeing the right people, it's like, okay, this is what we got to do.
Yeah.
But
found an issue. Here
we are dealing with all this stuff with like the team and home life, and
I've even having to like reschedule all your clients, like
all my clients that I want to show up for,
and people that depend on you, that like, sorry. And
as we talk about the lack of services. Yeah.
And then one of them's messaging me like, he's not free now for another 2 weeks. And I'm like, that's all I can do, like, yeah, you have to be able to relax. But then there was the issue of you getting short with me. Like, you're like, I need no stress. And I'm like, well, what can I do to help you? And you're like, don't baby me. And then I just lost it too. I'm like, this scares me.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a weird thing, but here's the deal, listeners. Like, as parents, and I sometimes think we toot our own horn a little too loudly. We're human too. And
we're not perfect.
Marissa, I'll tell you, if I didn't have you kind of there, like to push through some of that with me, I'd be up a creek.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, we've got to rely on each other as well.
Well, and it's funny because I always text my sister. She's an amazing nurse. She's a paramedic. She's talking about...
Which one is that? I don't remember.
Elena. She's talking about going to nurse practitioner school.
Gosh,
so
she needs
I always
to
text her with issues. And because if she doesn't know something, and she's an ER nurse, so she knows a lot of, a bigger scale of things, but she also knows emergency situations. But if there's something she doesn't know, she always researches it and finds it out. And I'm like, I don't know, find another, she'll just go and find out and then get back to me. And I was telling the girls what was going on with you. And it was one of our girls that said, have you texted Aunt Elena? I was like, no. And I thank heavens I did. She's the one that found the problem.
Yeah, she solved it for me.
Not your doctors.
Yeah, it wasn't. 2
doctors. And it was Elena that found the issue, and that we were able to address it and fix it. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Your home team, listeners. Yeah, because even the doctor that found this was like, okay, carry on. See you next week. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Go talk to another doctor.
Your guys' eyes were all the size of like, saucer plates, and you're just sending me on my way with nothing different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's not right. And I got to think about that too. I'm like, what in the world were they thinking? Because even the doctor I've been seeing for years was like, ooh, yeah. So even I got a little reaction out of him finally.
He's a pretty laid back.
He's a pretty laid back guy. But I'm thinking, what were they thinking?
Yeah.
And so I hate to say this, but I couldn't rely on those professionals. I had to lean on my home team.
Mm-hmm.
And my home team helped point some stuff out that then got me a little bit more precise with the professionals I needed to do. And that was a scare for one solid week. And I feel amazing now. Like a night and flipping day,
Thank heavens.
And so like what I'm saying here is that we've got to remember, and we say this until the cows come home, whatever that really means. The troops aren't coming.
Yeah.
We are the troops, people. Mental health and social problems are going to have to start to be rectified and remedied in your home, on your home court.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people whose home court is broken, needs some renovation, needs a new roof, so to speak.
Well, and to me, one of the things I'm so grateful for is, the internet can be, it's brought some of these mental health issues, but we also have so many resources at our fingertips. Yes, sometimes it's very difficult to decipher and go through all of it.
Yeah,
you can Google something.
You told me I had brain cancer.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
like,
dying. But you have that information, and we can Google that stuff and be able to sift through it and then run it by somebody. Even the issue that Elena said that she thought that it was, when we met with the doctor, I brought it up to him and he was like, it could be. Yeah.
Then I get a text message the next day. It's like, go do that.
Yeah.
Do that immediately.
Yeah. And Elena was just like, it's not on tons of research, but I have personally seen it. And she's seen a pattern repeatedly and talked to people that have been through it and said, this is the issue and this is what you need to do. And I'm like, okay, is he in a safe enough spot that we can do it? Physically. And she was like, yeah, if you do this on Friday, do this on Saturday and Saturday.
Oh my gosh. After meeting with those professionals, it was like,
better.
Wow, this is done. But here's the deal, right? The underlying issue that was discovered through all this is stress.
Mm-hmm.
Stress is a mental issue because what happens is it creates anxiety and depression, and the cortisol that's left as a derivative of stress, not when it's not burned off properly, is what causes so many problems.
Physical.
Yeah, last night, Coach Jensen pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, does your watch track this?" He gave some letters like HR something. I'm like, I don't know. Let's see. So I started scrolling through my stuff, and it was this little thing called the body battery. Okay. And that's the thing I've been watching the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And it was funny that both he and I have the exact same dip when it comes to stress, both me and him. And I'm like, that is weird. Right. And what it boils down to is that we have been running full speed ahead for so long that our body's not ever used to just being at rest anymore. Mm-hmm. And, it says things like take up yoga, do some mental health exercise. These are all the things that I've told people to do. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, the practicality of that is me sitting down, meditating, truly going to recharge a body battery. I don't know. I've never tried it. So I guess I better give it a shot.
And it's some of those things that seem so cheesy. Like you need to do some
breathing exercises
and some mindfulness.
Absolutely.
But shockingly, they do help.
But here's the deal. If I don't do those things for myself, if I don't do the breathing exercises, the meditation, the yoga, the running, the stuff that's going to make me feel good, what good am I going to be to you as a husband and to my kids as a father when I just about clocked out? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So people, this is a team effort. When we talk about creating a home team, it's not just you sitting up there in the skybox calling in plays. This is you down on the court running and sometimes substituting and playing down there with them.
And just bringing in multiple people, like you say, we've got to, sometimes it's easy to just think, oh, I have enough people in my life to support me. But the more you have, the more eyes you have on situations, the more ideas that you're able to get and be able to even just see different perspectives and go, let me try this. Let me try that. Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And that's what we all need right now. We need tons of it.
So think about your home team as your home court advantage. Pick your favorite, like stadium, Coliseum, whatever it is, your favorite sports team. when you're rooting for that home team, you don't let stupid people come in and defile it, right? Like when you're in the Dodger Stadium, you're not letting the Yankees come in and defile that, right?
Yeah.
Although let's be honest, like you have more chance of dying in the Dodgers parking lot these days than you do like actually like in LA as it is. That's a whole nother story. But what I'm saying is that like you bring only safe people onto your home court. Who do you bring into your house? Okay. But then you start analyzing, like, I've got these kids. These are the players. Parents, you guys are the coaches. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need some general staff, right? All the general staff. And that's like, like Elena for us, like she's our medical, right? Yeah. But you start having like the referees. Who are the referees, right? It could be clergy. It could be, family friends. It could be, other family members. The thing about that too that's interesting is that, do you remember, and I tell this story a lot, but because I love it. Back in the day, Marissa and I, when we lived in Orem, Utah, we had this funny little house that had a doorbell that only would repeat and ring when it heard a certain tone at a certain pitch.
Well, because then it had a repeater that was in the basement, so we could hear it throughout the house.
And so it was funny, and we didn't notice this for a while, but as our kids started getting older and we started having getting louder voices, every once in a while,
kids at the house, everything was louder.
Every once in a while, when we'd be like, all right, no one's listening. You guys are going to get grounded if you don't get out here and clean up. Like our doorbell would ring. And also we'd all freeze like, oh crap. And we'd sneak over to the door and open it. There'd be nobody there. I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah.
And what we soon found out was that once our vocal levels got to a point of a pitch, a decibel, that doorbell would ring.
Hit our repeater.
And it was funny because we were stopping the argument because we thought someone on the porch is going to hear us.
Someone's listening.
What does it teach us, Marissa?
It's just an outside, like, keep us in bounds, right?
Keep us in bounds.
It's kind of that whistle from the referee, like, calm down.
There was one time that we were arguing and yelling, and I was sitting and I just happened to look out the window and I saw a neighbor, a home teacher at the door, and he didn't even ring the doorbell. He just turned around and walked away. I'm like, oh, crap. But yeah, I've thought about patenting that and like putting that in all your houses, but so now it's out there, someone can do it. Just give me one when you get it done. But it was funny because that was the boundary keeper.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be able to establish these things. There's going to be players, kids, right, that are going to be very challenging. Mm-hmm. But I will give you this promise: if you will parent out of your inconvenience and be willing to hurt and to listen, and to go through it with them, you're going to get to the other side.
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot.
Taking time.
Relationships before rules, but still rules, right? Yeah. And that's hard to wrap your head around, because I'm not saying I don't want parents to be turn-ups and just give their kid everything they want. But you've got to build that relationship first and foremost, or else what good is trying to hold a rule?
Yeah. They don't respect you, they're not going to respect that. And I think I remember learning, I can't remember what it was from, but some parenting stuff I've done lots of parenting self-help stuff, that we just have buckets that we kind of need to fill, and being able to build relationship and build trust with our kids. And there's certain things that we like, okay, well, allow them to do that, or give them a praise here. And that's kind of just a drop in the bucket, so that maybe there's something more serious happening. We have the reservoir to give. Or, there's times we can say, nope, I mean no today. And our kids be like, you're so mean. But don't you remember when I let you do this? Don't you remember when I let you do that? And then you can talk about what you've already given in the bucket, that, sorry, this is a time I need to set a boundary. And I think people need to just put more into those buckets.
Yeah.
And being able to build, maybe sending I love you messages a little more often that are just out of the blue, and why you love that child or your spouse and something special about them, to like fill that bucket, because they need a whole lot more of that positive.
If you do need to cross that threshold of bringing an outsider in to be that referee, choose the counselor, the therapist wisely. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good ones out there, and there's a lot of ones out there that are just means to an end.
Turn-ups.
Yeah. Choose them wisely. I may not be the best fit for some people, and I may be for other people.
Mm-hmm. Find somebody that works for you.
Absolutely.
And maybe that means you're going to see somebody 4 or 5 times and be like, that's okay. You can stop seeing that therapist and you can find somebody new. If it doesn't feel like it's connecting and fitting, keep looking.
Absolutely. Addict Athlete, we have resources free for you to come down and to either be part of the team in a physical nature, come down here and be part of it, or even like the online content that we have.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff that you can do. I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't have to go broke or go into debt to get help.
Yeah.
But there's also that you're going to get what you pay for as well. Like you're going to invest in yourself. And so don't hesitate with that. Challenge your insurance companies for those of you guys that need help, right?
You're the one who pays the policy, which means they are working for you, not you for them.
Absolutely.
So that means you need to follow up and maybe question.
We've had Nate
situations.
Bray on our podcast, have we not? Like before? Or is that the other podcast?
It's the other one. So we don't have the copy of that.
Okay,
so
we need to get him back on. Nate Bray is he's a godsend to Marissa and I. He's our insurance guy.
Yeah.
He's not like the weird insurance guys like the guy from Groundhog's Day, Ned, right? Nate's a good down to earth guy, and I
refer so many people to him in being able to help people get coverage and be able to find services.
Absolutely. And so if you need help with that, reach out to us. We'll kind of point you in that direction. But make today the day that you maybe start sweeping that home court. Turn off those lights, dust off the bleachers. Let's get you guys back into play.
Well, and I look at it, right, you're talking about some of the home court and being the people and who do you bring into the stadium. But sometimes let's think about how people decorate and have the stadium set up, like you say, keeping it clean. How is it decorated to show the team's colors? What is the team's values? What do they play for? Like, are you creating that kind of environment in your home so that everyone knows where you are and who you are when you're there, that it feels good to be there?
What about that kid that wants to stay stuck in his locker room, hibernating in his room
with the stinky jock straps?
With the stinky, yeah. You said it, not me. Every teenager has a messy room, and it's interesting because there's a lot of kids that do that. We have kids that do that too. But I've noticed something interesting that's been happening the last couple of weeks, and it's just been a simple invitation. And as we invite and as we kind of make it, available, and we're all kind of in tune. Like, I hate watching movies with you guys because everyone flipping talks, but it's the funnest thing, man. It's the funnest thing. Like, we've been watching this stupid show for the last couple. I'm not sure how I got hooked into it.
Yeah,
but like, I figured it out at first, and I'm like, and everyone was so blown away. Like, oh my gosh,
as a family and talk.
It was a simple invitation, which means that everyone shows up. And you don't get mad when someone spills a soda on the floor. You don't get upset when, you have to pause it because kid number 5 has to go to the bathroom again.
The wax. I found
it.
I found the wax in the carpet yesterday.
I hate to tell you people, but your houses aren't supposed to be museums. They're going.
But a whole candle, like, oh my god.
They're going to get dirty. Yeah. And then right when that happens, I guess you have grandkids that come over and do it too. So, I've had friends whose homes were kind of like a museum, and you don't touch anything.
But I've been talking about donating plasma for a carpet fund.
Yeah. Man, maybe you better open a few more hours to private therapy. Yeah. But listeners, if you need help establishing your home team, reach out to us. That's what we want to do. There's some neat things that can be done there. Marissa is an expert at being able to get you guys out and recreating and doing things together that your kids won't even realize or know that it's happening. That you can have these family experiences with purpose. Those are great opportunities to communicate and to kind of build relationships.
Submit questions here for us to be able to answer, whether we do it live or, another week.
Yeah.
Like, we're here to help.
This is a free resource for you to take advantage of. Why not? So jump on addicttoathlete.org. You'll find all of the content on there and more, our contact information. Even if you want to try and wrestle your insurance company to get a session with Coach Blue here, it can all be done through addicttoathlete.org. If you'd also be inclined to join us this June for our No One Left Behind half marathon.
Yes.
You're going to pick 2 of your closest friends or 2 of those kids that you want to get out and exercise and sign up for our half marathon. This is a team half marathon by which you're
finish together.
You're only as fast as your slowest runner, which means you're going to have an experience. You're going to help someone cross a line to finish that race that didn't believe they could, and you get to be part of that. So jump on. It's addicttoathlete.org. underneath our events tab, and you can register for that. Also, when you're on there in September, our Addict to Athlete official 5K we do every year. This is the proxy run, our recovery run that we do in honor of those who have lost their battle to mental health or addiction,
those still
struggling,
or those in recovery.
Yep. So come be a part of that. It's an amazing thing. And there is rumbling in the ethos that the Addict to Athlete 5K is going to be coming to Southern Arizona. So yeah, brace yourself as you get to learn more about that with Victory Recovery. So athletes, listeners, thank you so much for being here. Continue to reach out. We support you. Marissa, sorry about the high blood pressure, but you stressed me out. Beyond that, listeners, continue to do all your best. Turn your mess